The storm had ended hours ago, but the jungle was still breathing. Hot winds slithered through metallic wreckage, carrying the scent of ozone, fuel, and something uncomfortably alive. Ethan Reeves wiped blood from his temple. Behind him, the Odyssey 9 lay cracked open like a giant steel rib cage, sparks hissing from its broken heart. His crew was ash and memory. He was the only thing left breathing. He stepped into the green haze, rifle raised, boots sinking into mud that pulsed with alien bioluminescence. The silence here wasn't peaceful. It was predatory. A vine snapped. Ethan spun, finger tightening on the trigger, but he was already too late. Out of the foliage stepped a figure that defied physics and logic. 8 feet tall, skin the deep violet of twilight, eyes gold like molten glass. Armor sculpted from bone and scavenged metal hugged her frame. She didn't walk, she stalked. Flanking her were 2 others, blue-skinned, silver-haired, silent as ghosts. Ethan lifted a hand. "Friendly," he said, his voice sounding small against the jungle's roar. The leader moved, a blur of violet and steel. Suddenly, a curved blade kissed the base of his throat. Cold metal, warm breath. "Don't," she whispered. Her accent was sharp, carved from consonance and command. Before Ethan could blink, a rope coiled around his wrist. It hummed, tightening into his skin until light flared across the fibers. Energy restraints. Smart tech wrapped in primitive aesthetics. "I come in peace," Ethan muttered, panic rising. The leader, Ven, tilted her head, tasting the words. She gestured to the crash pod, then to the blinking distress beacon on his console. "Signal," she said. "It calls help." "Yeah," Ethan breathed. "Help." Her eyes narrowed. "No, it calls hunters." The realization hit him cold. The jungle wasn't the only thing listening. They moved him. Fast. Ven, flanked by her warrior Surin Nile, pushed him through the dense undergrowth. The air smelled of rain and iron, heavy with the buzzing of unseen insects. "Run," Ven ordered. "Night comes." They didn't make it far before the mist broke. Shapes poured from the shadows, 6-limbed, starving pack creatures. The ambush was sudden and violent. Sir fired arrows that burst into blue flame, while Nile's energy whip sliced the air with the crack of thunder. Ethan didn't just watch. Adrenaline killed his fear. He grabbed a fallen metal rod, swinging with desperate force as a beast lunged. Metal met bone. The creature fell screaming. Ven was a storm in the center of the chaos. Her blade carved arcs of silver through the green dark. She fought like she had done this 1,000 times. When the last creature fell, silence rolled back in, heavier than before. Ethan bent over, chest heaving. "You 3 do this every day?" Sir grinned, showing sharpened teeth, sometimes before breakfast. Ethan noticed a deep slash on Ven's arm, leaking dark blue blood. "You're hurt. Not yours to fix," she snapped, though her posture sagged with fatigue. "Infection doesn't care whose arm it is." Ethan reached into his pocket, pulling out a canister of antiseptic foam. The warriors tensed, weapons raised. Ven held up a hand. He sprayed the wound. The foam hissed, sealing the cut instantly. Ven watched him, her golden eyes unreadable. For a second, the warrior mask cracked, revealing exhaustion, grief, and something startlingly human. "We call it medicine," Ethan said softly. "We call it magic," she murmured. Then the steel returned to her voice. "Move, the hunger wakes." They reached a camp built into ancient ruins, stone towers leaning like broken teeth against the sky. Blue fire burned in carved bowls. Ven was clearly their commander, but she looked less like a queen and more like a warden. "What is the hunger?" Ethan asked as they sat by the fire. "A wound under the world," Ven said, staring into the flames. "It feeds on sound, fear, and energy. If we stop fighting, it rises. So you're fighting a losing war." "We keep the light," she said, tossing him a small, glowing crystal. "A memory stone. It holds the heat of the sun before it died." Ethan turned the stone in his hand. "I build engines," he said, a crazy idea taking root. "If I can fix your power source." "Maybe you don't have to just remember the sun. Maybe we can wake it up." Ven looked at him. "Our engines sleep in the old temple. They never wake." "Show me." The temple was a descent into the planet's gut. The air grew cold. In the center of a cavernous chamber stood a colossal engine, fused with roots and stone. Ethan ran his hand over the corroded panel. It wasn't tribal tech. It was pre-collapse human design. "Hold steady," Ethan ordered, connecting the portable cell from his flight suit. Sparks hissed. Ancient runes flickered to life. The machine breathed. Blue light flooded the chamber, crawling up the engine's spine. "You made the sun breathe," Ven whispered, awe replacing the command in her eyes. Then the ground shuddered. A fissure split the far wall. Black vapor seeped out, shrieking, swirling, hungry. It wasn't just a monster, it was a void. "You fed it light," Ven shouted, drawing her blade. "It feeds on energy." They ran. The temple roared as the shadow rose, chasing them up the spiral stairs. They burst into the surface air just as the tribe sealed the heavy stone doors. The ground shook, but the seal held. "You said until dawn," Ven turned on him, furious. "You woke the dark." "I can stabilize it," Ethan pleaded. "We just need a containment loop." A lightning rod. Before she could answer, the council horn blew. Judgment wait on the high terrace. 9 elders, robed and terrified, looked down at Ethan. "He woke the hunger," the eldest intoned. "Balance must be paid, blood for light. One must remain to bind the dark. One must leave so the others may live." Ven stepped forward. "I am the spark, I will stay." "No," Ethan grabbed her wrist. The touch was electric. "You've spent your whole life protecting them. Let someone protect you for once." "You would die for a world not your own? Maybe it's not so different," he smiled crookedly. "We both keep breaking things and calling it progress." The terrace split open. The hunger had broken through. A column of shadow rose, screaming, lightning cracking across its surface. "Go." Ven shouted, raising her sword. Not this time. Ethan slammed the memory crystal into his distress beacon, overriding the safety core. "Give me one more spark." The beacon exploded with blinding white light. It didn't just signal, it screamed energy. The hunger turned, drawn to the massive power surge, turning away from the tribe. Ethan felt his own bioenergy being drained, his heart stuttering as the beacon used him as a conduit. Ven didn't run. She rushed to him, pressing her forehead to his. "If you fall, I fall." "Then hold on." The sky split open. The beacon's light met the hunger's shadow, and the world turned white. Silence. When Ethan opened his eyes, the sky was a fragile, bruised violet. The engine hummed softly in the distance, no longer erratic but steady. The hunger was gone, burned away by the overload. Ven knelt beside him, her hand on his chest. "You breathe," she said, sounding amazed. "Barely," he croaked. Days later, the valley was green again. The rebuilt engine stood like a temple of life, its light feeding the jungle. Ethan stood on the ridge, watching the sky. "Your people will come," Ven said, joining him. The wind caught her silver hair. "Maybe," he answered. "If they do, they'll see something worth leaving alone. And you?" Ethan looked at the repaired ship, then back at Ven. He looked at the scars on her arms and the unaccustomed peace in her eyes. He realized he had come to map a world, but found a heartbeat instead. "The jungle sleeps," Ven said, her fingers brushing his. "But hunger always returns. Then we'll feed it light again." Their shadows stretched together across the ruins, merging until you couldn't tell where human ended and alien began. Ethan smiled. He had crashed as a survivor. He would stay as a guardian. "Guess I'm not going anywhere," he said. Ven smiled, a rare, bright thing. "Good. We have work to do."